Welcome to the MSK Tech Sundays. So we have some great co-hosts and guests here today. We have guest Jody from Torco Fuels here to share his knowledge on ethanols, methanols, alcohol, nitrometh, whatever we want to talk about. And we have Adam Hodson from Mac TV as well. Just recently switched over, doing a lot of things with this truck. So he's here to share with us. He's kind of new to it. And we have co-host LL Spool J up there. And we have co-host Mark up there as well, too. And so welcome, everybody. And if you guys got comments or questions along the way, go ahead and post those up on the side over there. And we're going to get started here. And so what's, I don't know. I made some notes. I didn't know if you saw those at all. Jasper. But I know a lot of people have a lot of questions.
So I can ask a question to start off with, and I feel like it's something a lot of methanol guys that are new to it probably have, and maybe Jody's got the answer. Is there really a difference in different methanol brands?
Basically, no. All the methanol, if you buy virgin methanol, it all comes from the same source. We don't make methanol. BP, Sunoco, Renegade, nobody makes methanol. We all buy it from a supplier, not maybe the same supplier, but we all buy it from the same hole in the ground, basically. But as long as you get a 99.9% purity on it, all the methanol is going to be the same.
Okay, cool. I mean, because that was something when I was, switching recently. There's so many. Everybody's got a methanol, and there's different brands, and you just kind of wonder, why is one better than the other? Because the prices seem to move a little bit, short of like the M1, M5 stuff, maybe.
Right. VP, yeah, the M1 is just virgin methanol from VP. Now, of course, they put like the M3, the M5, they'll do additives, that kind of stuff, top lube, you can do different things to it. But basically, if you just have the pure methanol, they're all the same. Now we do a line drum. I know VP does a line drum. There's some other manufacturers out there that put it in a steel drum or a non-line drum, and you have some problems with some because as you guys know, maybe not, but it does attract moisture, so you have some issues with the drum, the inside of the drum actually rusting because the water that's inside the drum. So we choose to use a brand new line drum in everything that we do. That way we don't have the contamination issues with it.
Awesome. Thank you.
You bet.
So you did mention top end lube there too. What's everybody's opinion on, does everybody run that? Even, it seems like maybe it'd be a carbureted thing more than EFI thing even, but is that
we ran it we ran the top end lube in our blown alcohol stuff, which is just 100% methanol or whatever, and we run the top end lube. It really helped with the oil wash down, so it didn't get so milky because they're so violent idling around, and so it helped that last a little longer. And if you left the methanol in the system for longer than a week without it, it would gum up the barrel valve. You couldn't open it. And with the stuff, we seem to get a little more time if you were being lazy. That's the only difference I noticed, and it wasn't so hard on your eyes.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty good. It's a pretty good analogy there. The top lube. I mean, most guys honestly don't run it anymore, especially with the electronic fuel injection, because you can tune them a little bit better. The mechanical fuel injection's a little more crude. Carburetor's a little more crude, so you do have some of the issues, and the top lube will help with those issues. It'll prolong it a little bit, but it's not going to fix it all.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. Badass. Sunoco's plastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what's the preferred method of storage then on the same, kind of on that same point?
So the preferred method is to leave it in the original steel container, the metal container, preferably lined drum. We don't recommend the plastic containers. They're easy. We throw them in the trailer. We've all done it. We put them in the trailer. They're easy to pour in and out of, but it's the worst thing for fuel, any type of fuel. It doesn't matter what it is. But methanol, of course, it'll attract moisture. The water 100% mixes with the methanol. So any chance we can to eliminate any issues, especially you guys up in Michigan, you get some humidity up there, of course, a lot of moisture in the air. So it wants to come into the container. The plastic containers just do not seal well enough. So we recommend put it in the metal 55-gallon drums, sealed tight, and preferably up off the concrete, put them on.
I usually put like 2 pallets on below my barrels and stuff for example.
Yep, that works well. You bet.
If you have a new sealed drum of methanol, 55-gallon drum that came from you that's new, what's the shelf time on it? Is it good forever?
It could be, but the problem is no container is going to be perfect. It's gonna, believe it or not, it's gonna, you hear the drums when they get hot and cold, they talk to you, they start banging and moving around. Well, air will come around that seal. You will be able to pull air around it. And unfortunately, in the wetter climates, moisture comes around that and it gets into the methanol, and that's where you start to have the issues. So we tell everybody, as a general rule of thumb, a year, as long as it's in the original container. But if they start taking it out of that, put it in the fuel jug, something like that, we don't recommend anything longer than a couple of weeks in a plastic jug sitting in the trailer. If you're going to we recommend if you go to the track on the weekend, put it in your plastic jugs, whatever you may do. When you're done at the end of the weekend, we would recommend you guys drain the thing out of the tank and put it back in the drum, pour your jugs back into the drum. That's the best case scenario.
Cool.
And same goes with the ethanol, because the ethanol pulls the moisture in as well.
What was the difference that you noticed? Have you done any tuning E85 versus methanol?
So yeah, we got a lot of customers that it's kind of a personal preference what they're doing. The E85 is a little bit more tuner friendly, not tuner friendly, but it's a little bit easier, especially cold starting. Yes, I'm sure you guys know when it's cold out, methanol cars do not like to start. You got to have a gas primer, something like that, and that's where the E85 guys are a little bit easier, because they do have the gasoline in the mixture, and so they do want to light off a little bit easier when it's cold out. But as far as tuning, you're gonna, typically, I tell everybody, if you're gonna switch from race gas to a methanol, you might as well double your fuel usage. Yeah. Yep. E85, you're gonna use about 30% more fuel, just kind of depending on different setups. A straight ethanol, which is 98%, is all you can get. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that. You can't buy 100% ethanol. 98% is as strong as we can get. And of course, that's going to use about 40% more fuel. But again, the methanol is going to use almost double over race gas. And
that would be called E98, the 98%.
So that's correct, E98. And basically, what it is pure ethanol is basically liquor. I'm not sure if you guys know that. So you can't transport it. You can't if you 100%, then it's alcohol tax for the government. Yeah. So the government wants their money on it. Of course, a gallon of moonshine, heck, it's $100 or whatever it is. A gallon of methanol is $4. So, or ethanol, I should say. But if they put a little bit, what they do is they put 2% gasoline in it, or a denaturant of some sort, so you cannot consume it. And then if it comes out of an alcohol tax, then it's just a regular gasoline or a commodity at that point.
I know if you ever got methanol in your mouth, it tastes a lot like moonshine anyway.
It does. Do not
it's
swallow
usually
methanol.
heptane that they put in it.
I'm sorry?
It's usually heptane.
It depends.
At least
on the
from our
blender.
distributor, it's heptane that they put in it.
Is it?
Yeah, I was going to ask
Okay,
what
we have the stuff that we get. It's called Bitrex, and it's just a very, very, it's a denaturant is all it is, but it's the most bitter thing known to man. And so basically what it does, if you get it in your mouth, it has a real bitter flavor to it. So you don't have a tendency to swallow it, is what they're trying to do.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
So
go ahead.
Sorry, Jody. Is there a temperature, like going into this year when we were new to it? We kind of heard like at a certain temperature, maybe it's below 40 or 40 degrees roughly. Like the methanol, I don't know if you say it kind of gels, but it acts way different to the point where, is there a temperature like it flat? Just you might not be able to start the car on methanol no matter what.
Yeah,
there
about
is.
40 degrees.
Yeah, okay. It's probably in that range, and of course, that's what we really recommend. If you're in the cold weather, we really recommend doing a fuel primer of some sort. A lot of guys just use a nitrous system under if it's a carburetor deal, they put it under the carburetor and just spray nitrous. There's a little nitrous bar, spray gasoline in it just to get the thing to light off, and then switch it over. A lot of guys will actually just run it on race gas too, to get it warm up quicker, so you don't burn as much methanol and milk the oil, that kind of thing. So, yeah, below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, it's really difficult to light those things off. And I've watched a lot of guys scramble around the pits trying to pull hood scoops off real quick with a fire under there.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that's the problem. Those things will backfire into the air cleaner and start the thing on fire, and then it becomes a mess. So you got to be really careful in cold weather with it.
And
we have some additives like an AutoZone where you can put in for ethanol for sulfuric storage and help give it a little bit of lube in it as well. Sometimes I do that towards the wintertime before I park it.
Yeah, it definitely helps. A lot of times, what I tell guys too, if they're, because you guys are, you'll winterize your stuff more than we do out here out west, of course. But a lot of guys I said, just start to put race gas in the thing and fire the thing up on it. It's going to run like hell, blubber around, but it gets the fuel through the system and kind of lubricates everything, especially a leaded fuel. The lead in there lubricates everything, and kind of run that through if it's going to sit. I mean, that's just a really good option, and that way you don't have to worry about any methanol or ethanol in somewhere in the system trying to corrode for a couple of months while it's sitting.
Cool.
I know on our blown alcohol type motors, after we're done, we drain the fuel system and dump just WD down the blow line, and you just blow it through the motor and actually start it on WD-40 until it runs out and quits, and that'll pickle it pretty well. So,
yeah, that definitely works.
Damn. So Jasper's E85 market.
I was going to show you this, the additive I was telling you guys about that people use around here, for example.
Okay, yeah.
Fuel conditioner.
Jody, you have something like that, don't you?
We don't offer any type of additive for it, just because most of the guys just don't run it. And again, out west here, we have the luxury of racing, year round. We just don't have the cold temperatures like you guys do. So we just don't have the experience that you do.
I just like to do it before I park it, and so it doesn't rust up during the winter, the cylinder walls and all that stuff. Just run that through there, and it keeps everything just fine.
Yeah, you bet.
And Adam, I'm still got carburetors, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. I was just, I was curious because I feel like the methanol deal is way easier with an EFI car. Like all the stuff we have being EFI, I feel like it's, we don't have. Maybe I'm wrong with the carburetor stuff, but we run our stuff pretty lean. At idle and whatnot, so we don't milk the oil, and it seems to work really well for us. Like I was a little surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm still on gas. I'm a nitrous car. I run like a 118 in the nitrous side and a 112 in my motor side. So if I ever needed to run on motors, so I don't have the trouble that they do. But our blower cars we race in the sand are terrible when it comes to looking it down.
Yeah, I was just we've talked to a lot of different guys about tuna methanol when we were first making the switch in Mountain Dew about this time last year. And it's to me kind of surprising how different the tuning, like how different a lot of guys tune methanol, to be honest. Like let's say just in the idle area also, like we'll run as lean as 6.0 if it'll do it. And most time it does to keep it nice and lean and keep the oil from milking. And then even at wide open, we started out like in the 4.0 range, 3.9 range. And it seems like when I've talked to other guys that tune methanol, that can go vary quite a bit both directions, but typically very much rich, not much leaner than that, but a whole lot richer than that. What's everybody's opinion on that whole deal?
Well,
as far as tuning on our end, what we tell people anyway, the methanol is really, really forgiving. You can be off on the tune up and this thing will run well and consistent and everything else. And that's the way most of the carburetor guys, they'll get the things close and just run them just because they're close enough. But the injection, the electronic fuel injection guys, you guys do have the luxury of leaning the thing way out at idle to keep it, clean and that kind of thing. But the mechanical fuel injection and the carburetor guys just don't have that luxury. So they kind of, you got the barrel valve, so you can lean the thing at idle, but we're still, it's still, I hate to say it. It's a dumb carburetor, dumb mechanical fuel injection. It just works. It works well, and it has for a lot of years. But when we get to the electronic side of it and start to be able to manipulate things all the way through, 10, 25 degree or RPM increments, you can just really, really fine tune some of those things.
Yeah. Jasper, you run yours really rich, right? Because you basically you don't run.
We don't run a cooling system, so we run ours. We let it idle rich, and then I don't know. It wasn't a challenge for us to tune at all. We just switched over. I think we switched over in one race and had zero issues whatsoever. The tuning window with meth is so damn huge compared to ethanol, especially when we came off ethanol with no intercooler. So like we were already really edgy on tunes with the ethanol. And then when we switched to methanol, it was like I could put 85 degrees of timing in it at 30 pounds of boost, and it would just, something else failed because it made too much power or something. It had nothing to do with cylinder heat or anything else. So I love meth, but if we're going to run a street car or something, I want ethanol with an intercooler. And I think both are capable of doing whatever you want for the most part, especially in no prep where you're always turned down. I don't think much of it matters. We run it because it's super forgiving and I don't have to run the weight of a cooling system and all the other things. So mainly it's about weight and money. It's cheaper to run it. And I don't know. I love burning people's eyes on the line. I run mine rich, like I said, so it sprays them with methanol, so it makes them all back up. So
yeah, they won't get out of your way anyway on the starting line. You guys know that well. Anyway, that's why
methanol, yes, they will.
Those wild ass rolling burnouts. So I've tried to run them over. They scatter. That's the only reason.
Jasper, do you spray any in the intake tube and charge pipe or no?
So I do.
We just run 550s right now because we're so turned down. And then I don't know. I would say like what I do.
That Michigan internet.
Here, I'll jump in for a second while he's doing that. So I run E98 in my setup currently with my turbo setup. So I do spray 2 nozzles of meth in there. I do use M1 in there currently on my setup. I'm going to be switching to full methanol myself. But currently I run like what you're talking about, Adam, where I have a separate tank and pump, and I inject the methanol in the car.
Okay. Well, we had done on Mountain Dew, and I think on Sean's, and we're doing the same thing on the truck. Is we basically have 2 injectors that are in the intake tube that pull fuel from the rail, and then we just we pulse them with the ECU under boost, basically, just to try to cool it down a little bit. I mean, I guess that's just what we've done. So for us, I'm comfortable with it. I was just curious I don't know how many people really do that, and if it truly works. Like we had to have them. I did see intake air temps come down when we changed the duty cycle of it from like starting at like 50% up to 80. But I know there's a lot of talk about sensor saturation too. So at some point, maybe it's not really true intake temps, but I guess at the end of the day, you just check the plugs, right?
Yes, never always check the plugs. Always.
Yeah.
They never
Plugs
lie.
don't lie. Yep.
Yep.
I've had O2 sensors be like 2 points off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I was just trusting the sensor, it would have.
We had a S10 recently on a carburetor deal, little nitrous truck, street truck, E85, and our O2 said it was dead on, on wide open on spraying it. It was like 11, 9, 12, right in there somewhere, and it was so rich that by the time I got the truck from my boy Joey, I had to jet it down 20 jet sizes to even get it close on motor.
Holy
20
shit,
jet sizes
no
up.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it got a short down pipe or something weird, or is it?
Yeah, it's got headers with like a V-band clamp to put these mufflers on there, and it's right before the muffler. And I don't know if there's a turbulence in there that made it weird, or if it was pulling air from the V-band, because it did kind of pop when you got off the throttle. But the tune-up was so far off. They were trying to tune it up on that. They never got it close.
Damn.
If it's popping on D-cell, it's pulling air in the exhaust.
Yep.
Huh. Interesting.
Definitely. I know we're talking a lot about methanol, but some of these guys are running regular race fuels, and some of the people want to switch over to like E85 and methanol. Do you guys have any challenges switching over from pure race gas going to ethanol or methanol? You guys experience maybe to help some of the others out there?
Our bank account's going to go up.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Q16 ain't cheap.
You need more fuel pump and injector or bigger carb for each one.
Yep, you're gonna need a bell drive pump if you're gonna go over to methanol, like on your carburetor deal. Like I'm still on gas because I'm a nitrous car, and to be honest with you, I don't know how to tune it up with alcohol, or else I would have it there if I thought I could get it figured out in time. But I'm still on gas.
Now, so on your carb deal, though, I wonder, is there any reason you guys couldn't use the the carb guys couldn't use like an air mode of 10 GPM or something? That
Sure
the
you can.
Okay.
Absolutely. My buddy with that truck used a Barry Grant 280 on an E85 on that E85 carburetor setup.
Okay, badass. I get.
So I
and
will-
the smart thing of it is that we're like streetcar stuff that normally we've not done a lot of, let's say, belt drive or cable drive. So I was just a little bit uncomfortable myself switching away from my electric pumps that I'm used to being consistent. So that's why I was just asking.
Yeah, but now
I run 3 electric pumps myself right now. Currently, I'm running 3 535 pumps in my current setup as a streetcar. And that's going to have to change. I think I'm going to have to go mechanical to get that methanol to work flow enough.
I think it comes to a point where when you're going methanol E85, is the belt drive is going to give you whatever you need, and it ends up being cheaper than adding all these extra $high electric pumps.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
The
One other thing I would say
there's
about
no draw from a belt-driven pump. When you have one of those, like we ran a Aeromotive 10.0, I'm sure everyone remembers. It annoyed everyone on the line. It's so loud, but it draws huge on the charging
I had
system.
one.
So like even if you run an alternator, even if you don't, it's a huge draw
you bet.
that you get rid of.
Oh, yeah.
But
That surge comes on.
Yeah.
pretty much only.
But you have the
needed
tank
in
up front though, right? So I guess for me, I stay
No, I have
electric
mine in
and-
the back.
Oh, so are you a cable driven deal, or do you have a surge tank situation, or what?
Yeah, Nick just borrowed it off.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Off the shop last week.
that's right. I forgot you brought one over. Yeah.
So one thing I do want to talk about with methanol and carburetors is we have an issue sometimes when the carburetor just cannot flow enough air and fuel through the thing. Let's say like a single carburetor, this is probably 10, 15 years ago, a big switch to methanol in the drag race scene came along. People started building 1,000, 1,200 horse bracket motors, a lot of these guys. But the problem is you can only make about 1,000 to 1,100 horsepower in a single carburetor deal. And the problem with that is, again, we talked about we're using so much more fuel getting through that carburetor that it's taking away the airflow. So if you have a 1250 CFM carburetor, let's say you have 400 CFM of fuel. When it's on gasoline, you only have 200 CFM of fuel. So you're losing airflow just by running that much more methanol through the thing. So a lot of guys will go to a dual carb setup, and that'll help the problem. But again, you get to the 2,000 horsepower range, somewhere in that area on carburetors, and you get to a limit. And so that's where I like to see guys switch over to a fuel injection. Of course, we'd like to go with electronic fuel injection just for the tuning aspects of it. But you will gain over the carburetors.
So John asked on power level. I mean, on Mountain Dew, when we switch, I don't know. Even on Sean's, I don't think we feel like we've seen a big power increase over E85. I don't know if you.
I'd say the only
maybe
power
there's a-
increase is added timing.
I was
I
saying,
can
yeah.
add more timing on meth, therefore I can make a little bit more power. If we were radial racers, we probably would have saw this switch because we're squeaking every last inch out of our motor. But we're all running less than our motors can make. So once again, it's not really the reason for me switching, at least wasn't a power increase. It was, like I said, less draw on the system, cheaper,
Weight savings,
just
the
a
intercoolers.
bunch of factors like that. Tunability.
Yeah, you get rid of the intercool. You don't, and you're not going to detonate it on alcohol. It's not a thing. Alcohol doesn't detonate. So that's one of the biggest gains, correct?
I think until you put nitro in it.
That's a picture of detonation.
Yeah, well,
Everybody, that's
nitro.
what happens.
Well, nitro is a whole different animal. Hey, Jody, is this true? I heard that you couldn't light it with a lighter, but you can combust it with a hammer. Is that a fact?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah,
Wow.
nitromethane is basically you treat it like a diesel. I mean, you don't need a spark plug. In the top fuel cars, honestly, they do not use a spark plug from half track on.
Yeah.
It's dieseling, and that's why they have a manual shutoff, because you just cannot turn the things off. We've got some dirt track guys that experiment with nitromethane, and some of the guys have to run a mechanical fuel pump that's engine driven. Mechanical, like the old school on the block, not a belt driven where you can put a fuel shutoff on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and those guys, we've had guys. I've been out there at the racetrack. They come back to pits and turn the ignition off. The thing just keeps on running. So you gotta starve the thing for fuel when you have nitro in the mix to get them to shut off.
Yeah.
They do not need spark. They need heat and compression. That's it.
You supply nitro to a lot of top fuel teams, don't you?
We do. Typically every year the teams come out here and test, and we'll supply all the nitro for the teams that come out.
You have to have like some kind of license to buy nitromethane and store it at your place, don't you? Because it's like a
you do, yeah. It's the Homeland Security. Yeah, Homeland Security. We're regulated through them. We report to them monthly. But yeah, it's a bit of a pain for the end user to do it. And basically what it is anything over 400 pounds of nitro, you got to be registered with Homeland Security. So that's why you see the 42-gallon drums that are typically sold, because those things weigh 395 pounds, and it's under the threshold of what Homeland Security wants.
That makes sense. I always wondered why they used a littler drum. I didn't get it, but that makes sense.
That's exactly why. Got to play the game, right?
Yeah. Yep. And then another thing, switching over to methanol on your carbureted stuff, is I know not everyone out here is bracket racers and they're going to kill me for this right now, but a lot of times you can't get your motors warmed up. They won't warm up. You have to put a spacer plate with a lean out or something on it. Like I know in our alcohol motors, even though we're leaned up at an idle, we take the fuel pump and we shut them off halfway. They kind of revs up like it's going to quit, and you just kind of find the medium there to get the motor warmed up, so you don't just milk the oil.
Like a lean out.
I would say lean out valve. I think for any carbureted guy, it would be recommended. I don't care what class it is.
Yes, absolutely.
Just because, I mean, the fuel injection guys, you got the advantage of leaning the thing out, and you can warm the thing up a lot quicker that way. But the carburetor guys, it's really difficult to warm the things up unless you do have a lean out valve. And I would highly recommend it if you're a carburetor guy.
So something we do is we have a probe welded into the oil pan that we plug into the generator. And as soon as we get to the place that we're running, if it's 40 degrees out or lower, we plug it right in. And if you leave it sit for about 30 minutes, the motor's about 150 degrees.
Yeah, that's what we run as well on our blower cars. Just like a pad.
We also use that in between rounds. So because we run so rich, because we don't run a cooling system at idle, we get back from the pits, we put a vacuum onto the breather and plug in the probe and try to burn off all the excess meth that went into the oil. And it'll give me about 3 or 4 more runs before I have to change the oil.
What temperature do you have to run the motors at, Jody, to get the methanol burned out of the oil?
You need to get up in the 200-degree oil temperature range to get the thing to boil out there.
Yeah.
So that's another advantage of a lean out valve. So at the end of the night, when you're done racing, you can pull the lean out valve and lean the motor up and get a lot of temperature in that motor to try and boil some of that methanol out of the oil to keep it from milking. So that is another advantage of
and John, what we mean is milking the oil on alcohol or methanol, they call it now. You're putting so much in the motor because you got to use so much more than gasoline. It gets by the rings and it turns the oil yellow looking, looks like milk kind of. So that's what we mean when we're referring to milking the oil.
Yeah.
But he actually asked a question.
So like after we make a run and we come back, the motor's usually sitting at like 190, 200. Now, granted, if it's like a 30-degree night out, you're just boned. But in the middle of the summer or throughout most of the fall and the spring, the motor comes back, it's at like 190. If we plug the probe in at 190, it puts the temp about up to 200. So then once it's at 200, we found it'll boil the meth out the bottom, and the vacuum will suck out most of the motor or most of the moisture. And if we go like 5 runs, like there's actually an amount you dump out of the vacuum.
Really?
But
that's cool.
If we plug it in dry, you know what I mean, and it's 30 or the car's 30 degrees and we plug it in, it takes probably, like I said, I don't even know how long it would take to get up that high, but to get to 150 is about 30-40 minutes.
Are you running straight 70 weight oil, Jasper, or what do you run for oil?
No, we run 20-50.
I got you.
I run the same too in my.
Jody, do you guys sell a nitro meth mix like an M5? Do you guys sell fuel like that?
We do. We have it's called our Methanol Plus, and it's got some nitro in the mixture, and it makes really good power.
What's the difference in cost?
It's about $100 more a drum.
Not too bad.
And if you ever need fuel backup this way, I get in touch with Jody. He sponsored my car and helped me out with fuel years ago. And I'm a dealer for it, or will be when I come back. So we can sell you the fuel right up out of here.
Yep,
Cool.
you bet.
The M5 Adam will definitely shorten your tuning window again, though. Like the jump you got from ethanol shrinks right back down to like
Yes, it
ethanol
does.
with no intercooler. Like
Oh,
you have
gosh.
to be very, very, very precise, or it goes bad quickly.
Yeah, but you'll make like 300 more horsepower.
Yep, no questions about it. And you
It's
will
all
burn
good till it
eyes
ain't.
even harder.
When you
It's
see
like
me roll
nitrous
to the
jets.
front side of the track, that's what I'm dumping in my shit right there.
I got a good question for you guys. So let's say I'm running turbo and nitrous, both combination together. How does that work with methanol? Kind of throw you in case some guys are doing that out there. I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I know
no
Patrick
issues.
does.
They're trying to spool a bigger turbo. You know, I know you can spool faster with methanol, but
Mhm.
kind of gets into that subject we're going to go into next.
Yeah, a lot of guys, they'll run methanol and spray nitrous, whether it be to spool the thing faster or just to pick up power. But there's no issues of running nitrous on methanol at all.
Especially when most of these people are using it in such a small amount. They're using a 50 shot or a 100 shot. It's not like
Yes.
Mark trying to spray 750 or something.
300 shot, eh?
Yeah, that is one of the other advantages of methanol is it does make big torque numbers. You may not see as much peak horsepower, but the mid range really picks up.
Awesome.
So I had a few things just to kind of educate a little bit for everybody. So like E85, as far as doing their fueling, I just want to kind of come back a little bit for a second and we'll continue because some of the guys are asking some basic questions. So E85 requires probably about 30 to 35% more fueling versus running gasoline or race fuels. So if they're transferring over, they'll need some bigger pumps to do that.
You guys can
And then methanol, how much more fueling? Is it like 100 to 200% more flow that it needs? Is that about right?
We typically see about 80 to 100%.
80 to 100%. Okay.
80 to 100%. So basically, let's say a Holly carburetor on gasoline, you have an 80 jet in the thing squared around, you're going to have about a 150 to 160 jet in it.
Yeah, alcohol jets start at 140 in an alcohol kit, I believe, all the way to 200.
I believe so.
No, there's obviously time you can do a lot more. You can do a lot more with the methanol. What are some of the other benefits besides the cooling, the weight savings, cheaper? I mean, it seems like methanol really is kind of the better way to go overall.
It's so cold. It makes the air so dense. You could put so much more fuel and air into the cylinder. Like on our blower motors, the whole top of the hat will be frozen, a big old ice chunk after you make a 300-foot pass with it. There's just the fuel is so cold. I don't know if you ever got it on your hand. That's one of the biggest advantages. That and they don't detonate, I think. I
run E98 in my setup, and sometimes the temps get up there pretty high. I'm sure some good freeway pulls. I get up in like 120, 110. And then I spray the methanol in there and I get it down to probably about like 60 or so. So I imagine methanol gets even quite a bit colder than that then. Starting to cure that.
It does. Like Mark said, there's guys, if you watch some of the guys on TV, the top alcohol guys, whatever it may be, before the run, you actually see them spray the injector hats, the butterflies, because the thing will ice up, literally sitting there idling, and it hangs the injectors.
I always wonder
So
what that
they'll
was.
actually spray.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. I thought that was like
de-icer
something to get it started or something.
Yeah, it's just like an oil-based something, so it doesn't hook. Like on all of our pedals, we have big old throttle loops and push-pull cables, so if it does, you could jerk it back shut. I know it sounds crazy, but I guess we're dumb enough to drive them. So,
interesting.
I don't know. So part of the big reason we switched to methanol in the truck, anyways, was because it's got a bigger turbo, small cubic inch, and the turbo is a mile away from where the engine's at. So we had some struggles this year getting the thing to consistently make boost on the brake at low RPM. Since we're doing backtrack stuff, we need the RPM. A lot of times we're under 4,000 and we're trying to leave on 6 or 8 pounds of boost and ramp in. And, it just was really tough the way it is now. And just doing a little bit of goofing around with the methanol, it's amazing how much quicker it makes boost. Like it's insane how quick it gets on the chip now.
I bet.
Do you have that screenshot? Do you have that screenshot to actually share?
Yeah, I can show the part of the video where we get up, where it gets up on the chip like immediately, and I should have hunted down one where it doesn't. Like typically, it will take me on a not a hot, like not a 90-degree day, but if it's 75 or so out, it's going to take probably 5 or 6 seconds at least to get up on the chip, and then
On the screen now.
get there. Yeah, that was kind of a data log comparing the two. But when we put methanol in it, dude, it was nuts. It gets to the chip immediately, and then it was like 5 minutes of tuning, so we can get it to make boost quicker, I'm sure. But it got to the chip about as soon as I got to watt, and then the boost came in. So I can play that. Let's see here. Share. Give me 1 sec. So
You hit the full screen down there.
okay.
Bottom
Is it?
corner.
Yep,
Yep.
there it is. Bam. All right. Back her up just a hair. I'm sorry, guys. All right, there was it. So it fired up like right away. You know, we just changed the fueling a little bit. It was awesome, actually, how quick it fired up.
And this is he's pulling almost low timing compared to what he used to do. So we'll see what this does.
So it goes right to the chip. So that was 10 pounds of boost, which it normally on E85 it's so it takes it so long to get up on the chip that I have to I have some pretty radical like advanced tables where we're throwing a bunch of RPM at it, like a 2-step offset, and then also initially adding 15 degrees sometimes, and then as boost is coming in, we're dragging it down to pulling almost 15. And when that happens, it does a lot of times it'll pop and shoot a flame and get all obnoxious and stuff, just to make 7 or 8 pounds. And that was with just like no RPM offset and just a little bit of timing pull. It immediately crawled up there, which was like very exciting because they say even when I could get it to make boost on the line, the ramp into like the 60 and 80 foot mark would always be lazy. And I feel like that's going to get a hell of a lot better now too. So I'm really excited about it.
Much more happy.
100%.
That's where one of the advantages again of the methanol is basically you're tricking the intake air temperature, right? Like you said, you know, on a 90-degree day, it took forever to spool the thing up on 85 or gasoline. But when you race the thing in cold weather, it wants to spool quicker. You know, you got air is denser, you get more air just through the charge tube, everything else. So the methanol is basically just tricking the thing into racing in 40-degree air on a 100-degree day.
I like it.
And he put the turbo on the roof. It's got a ways to get some pressure up that pipe.
It's got a ways to go.
It's got a second. So I'm glad people have always said it. We've never had any of the cars that have been that difficult to deal with had to have that kind of extreme situation, but it was truly amazing to see it work like that. It's cool.
How do you guys feel
good?
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about, you know, let's say like a car you do streets with, switching over from like E98 to straight methanol and running that, you know, obviously for the duration of whatever you're doing. You see any issues at all doing that, like on the street as a daily, you know, say you're doing some street racing, let's put it out there.
The biggest issue I would say is fuel consumption. If you're you know, methanol, you're going to use so much more fuel. So the fuel consumption, obviously when you're on the street, if you're driving the thing out to the race or whatever, you're going to have some issues with how much you got to carry.
And that's what I was going to say is what is the difference between like E85, your mileage versus like running methanol? What kind of miles? Just for some people who may not know any better, you know?
Yeah. So like E85, I mean, typical E85 tune, you'll lose probably 25 to 30% fuel economy, you know, if you're driving 100 miles, you're going to use, 30%. On methanol, it's going to cut it in half. I mean, it's that drastic.
50% more.
You're going to use 50% more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So
use
if you're,
about
let's just say
gallons per run.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And
Those guys that'll
300
use-
foot.
On
The blower
Oh, yeah.
cars.
On ethanol, we lost about a gallon. But we also had less power then. So it's kind of not a great comparison.
Yeah.
But we were using about
300
a gallon to a gallon and a quarter a run.
The
on
300
ethanol
flip
and
cars,
2.5
you don't do a burnout or nothing. You just pull down there and make a pass that's blown alcohol. They'll use 6.5 gallons a pass.
Holy shit.
16 injectors, like 40 pounds of boost.
all the power.
Yeah.
Bracket cars, gay ones or whatever.
They should just be running 87, dude. You don't have to get there first.
That's right.
You're the fastest. You just got to get there at the right time, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really know all the rules.
John's got a great question here. Are you talking about heat ranges and plugs, meth versus E85? Like I run 2 steps colder in my setup, for example, on ethanol. What has to change going to meth, for example?
I ran the same.
Guys?
We always ran 8s on E85 and we run 10s on methanol on our methanol setup, whether that's right or not. That's just what we've done.
We ran 9s on
I've done
ethanol,
9s.
but once again, we
done
were
9s.
running less boost and less power. On the methanol motor, we
Yeah.
were running 10s because
Yeah, and I
we're
guess I should say ours was an
pushing the
intercooled
hell out
setup.
of it.
Yours being non-intercooled was definitely it's a tough animal, non-intercooled on E85.
Yep. Pretty much if we made more than 30 pounds of boost, the IETs went to 310, or at least what that sensor said they were doing.
Right. Maxed it out.
The
Up
head
to the water.
gasket would check out.
I was going to say it's gone.
Dude, I've been there. You know that. I've lived that life for a whole year. It sucked.
Copperhead gaskets and groove the blocks and head. Okay, but anyways.
So then we switched to meth, and we only got 2 passes out of that motor. So the first pass went great. We made 30 pounds of boost like we always did. It didn't blow the head gasket, so we were all pumped. And then we drew Billy the second round, and
Turn it up.
yeah, I told everyone, you might as well go get the golf cart ready. And we spit 2 of the rods out when it tried to make 1,600 horse on some H-beam rods and threw a couple of them out of the pan, but we did
What are you
still get
running?
the W.
Yeah.
What are you running for rods now? Did you go do aluminum rod?
No, I run an Oliver billet.
Yeah,
I run to change them every year.
I run a Cali's Ultra rod. It's like a billet rod, steel rod, and I've got like 600 passes on that thing already, and it just takes it.
Holy shit.
Nitrous car. And what do you guys run for head gaskets? I just run like a tri-layer trimetic gasket.
That's what I was gonna.
We're running Athena's, but like I would prefer top fuel hoops.
Yeah.
I really think, I've always run the Athenas, but I think that the full copper with grooved, we're getting up in the higher boost levels and pressures and the methanol and all that. This thing, it seems like it's a better option to go that route instead. I was going to suggest that to you, Adam, for your guys' cars. Actually, I think it would help solve some problems.
Well, so most of them we were using Athenas now, or at least Mountain Dew did, and Sean has Athenas on his. The one thing we tried, we just had a customer set of heads done, and we're going to have ours done too. From TKM, they have these mini hoops now. If you've seen that, where you can, it's like a glorified O-ring setup. It's a 1-piece stainless ring, and then you still use your MLS gasket, like your standard LS9 for an LS deal, if you want. You still use that, and then it's got that mini hoop in there, and it's pretty affordable to have done. It's like $300 a head, and I think it's going to be a better option to me than like an Athena, where every time you pull the head, now you got to cut the head. The rings are in the cylinder head, and if you need to pull the head off, there's nothing damaged. You swap out your MLS gasket and you keep going. So
I'm gonna send you a video too. Shortly about this subject. So what? Jasper vanished. Where you went to? There we go. I got a question for you guys.
yeah, TKM is badass. Those guys are great dudes down there. They obviously make a lot of power with all kinds of stuff, and they're really good to deal with too. Very easy to deal with, and I said the mini hoop thing. There's some nice. John Doc did a nice video. That's how I found out about it on YouTube. And so if you haven't seen it, go watch it. We don't have anything yet, but I know they have them in a lot of cars, especially. It sounds like a lot of Coyote based cars. where they're cranking some boost up with them, and it seems to be holding really good. So
That's kind of what I was talking about. I'm going to shoot you a video on that.
okay.
Quick here. But whatever. What else can we can share to kind of help others that are trying to do this? Convert. I got a question for you.
Rob a bank.
Yeah, that's a fact. No, it's very true.
I was going to ask about the cost conversion from going from ethanol to methanol. I was going to ask you, can you guys share a little bit insight on that a little bit? Injectors and everything else.
Well, power levels, everything. It seems like, I'm personally like under 1,500 horse, and if everything works out okay, I'll have all my shits maxed out, the injectors, the pump, and everything, and I was able to probably do it for. I already had my E85 injectors. I had 210s, and I'm going to use them again. So I bought a 10 GPM aeromotive, and those things are damn near $2,000. But I think the other thing maybe you don't think about is fuel lines, right? Changing fuel lines over depending on what you already have in the car. Mine were like the E85 stable rubber, which they say those seem to be okay. I still am just going to do PTFE just because we have it laying around, but. Most guys seem like they spend. It's easy to go $5,000 on a methanol conversion very easily. 5 to 6.
Yeah, because if I could do it like ideally, I would have 210s as my idle injectors, and then I would have like some 700s that come on at set RPM or set boost or whatever I end up setting it to. But they would come on at wide open throttle instead of so that way that would help on milking the oil some. It would help on a lot of things, but it's that much more costly because you need now that much more fuel line, that many more Ys, a whole other set of injectors. So we just run a single set and deal with it. But on the question that John's asking about, I change my oil every event. Probably not practical or whatever, but that's what we do. If we, go rounds, if we go somewhere and make one pass, no, I don't change the oil. But about I would say if I make 5 runs somewhere, I change the oil when I get home. And I don't have to. I mean, there's multiple ways I could go about it. I could drain all the oil out, put it on a hot plate and burn off all the meth and dump it right back in if I wanted to. But we're second tight, so we're sloppy, and we spilled half of it, and someone threw a cigarette butt in it, and
now
so we just dumped new oil in. But that's why I said, if there was any advice for anyone, rob a bank, steal a ton of money, because this just gets ridiculous. Where our classes went and gotten to is
insane.
pretty much no different than anything else at this point. So yeah, if you want to make $1 million with a race car, you got to start with 2 million. It's one of those type of things. And another thing for that oil, if you drain that into a pan and it's clean and you pull it out and let it set in your shop, it'll evaporate all the alcohol out of it on its own without heat. But then is it clean? Who knows what it's going to do? We change our blower motor oil every 10 runs because it is hard on the oil.
How does that work with a street car? Somebody trying to run methanol, for example. Same things.
Yeah, bad idea.
I mean, my car originally when we converted it, we had a 10-gallon tank in there, so we actually could drive. I think what's on Adega from here? I drove all the way to the next town over and back when I was breaking in the motor. Now,
20-mile round trip.
Yeah, probably a 20-mile round trip, and I came back and I probably could have made if I was pushing it till it ran out, I probably could have went 35 to 40 miles. So you can go, but who wants a 10-gallon tank in their car? It all depends what you're doing.
That's why you gotta get a pickup truck. I got 20
I would
back
never
there.
run meth on the street for something that I actually intended on driving a lot. I drive my car from my house to downtown, which is 3 miles down to Main Street because they have a car show every Wednesday, and I'll do that twice a year. And yeah, if that's what your street car does, then switch it to meth. But if you intend on driving 20 miles to the town over, that's just a bad idea.
If you intend on doing that, get a big block nitrous car. You can drive it anywhere you want. 15 to 1. I have no trouble driving it anywhere.
So let's say they run ethanol to get there, and they're on the tank low, and they put in meth. Can you mix the two fuels?
I mean,
There's a little bit in the
drain
tank?
it and let it idle long enough and switch over, but I wouldn't mix them.
Yeah, I think it'd be pissed.
Yeah,
like,
definitely
you'd be
wouldn't
super
recommend
pissed
it.
off in the tune-up.
Yeah, you would never get the mixture the same. It would be so inconsistent.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we drove Mountain Dew when we went up to Woodward for Roadkill Nights. I think Nick, he had to drive it. I mean, it was about 15 miles, but it was like through town. So it took us like 25 minutes, and it shockingly made it all the way there on 5 gallons and back. And it didn't have a cooling system or nothing either, really. So it just through the heads, and the methanol was helped cooled enough that it never really got hot. And it was in August, which was pretty kind of a neat deal, but it did okay. But it idles relatively lean. It cruises lean. So like we don't have oil milking issues. Part of the reasons I wanted to keep the 210s, or if you were a guy that was going to do 16 injectors, it makes a lot of sense. Kind of like what you were saying too, Jasper. If you got a small set in there or some way that you can throw, like I can throw gasoline in this thing, or I could throw E85 in it and drive it anywhere I want also by just putting a different tune-up in it that's already dialed in for that fuel. But the injectors and the fuel system can deal with those other fuels, so I can still street it wherever I want. When we were on Rocky Mountain Race Week and Drag Week, both with Mountain Dew, we basically, we raced on methanol at the track, and we had 16 injectors in the intake and the high ram. And we were literally, when we went to leave, I would drain all the alcohol out of the fuel system and like kind of try to pump it out the best we could. And then we would just throw gasoline in it, and it would be, I'd switch the tune, and it'd be pissed off for like the first 5 minutes, and then it would be right back on gasoline and be happy. And that's how we did it the whole week, driving it.
And that's why I was asking that question for that reason there. For something like
You
that.
guys went really far with that, didn't you? How many miles? A couple thousand or something?
Yeah, back to back. So like both were probably 1,200-ish miles each. So it was over 2,000 miles in 2 weeks.
Yeah, badass.
Just not for oil changes?
So that was the thing. We did change the oil a lot anyways, and mostly honestly because the highway is so hard on them, and you're driving, we would drive 6, 7, 8 hours between stops, and you would drive 3 or 4 hours at a time, and it just beats that oil up so bad. We would normally change it the next day in the morning anyways as maintenance.
What are you guys running for oil in that?
2050 Schaefer's. We're big. I tell you, after doing the Drag Week and Rocky Mountain Week thing this year with not only the Mountain Dew, but with the truck, dude, Schaefer's oils, I'm going to give them a plug. That stuff is tough shit. It really is. Like, and we had to run some non-Schaefer's a couple of times. And, when you drive it on the highway for that long, and with the truck we were at, like it ran so hot the whole time, like 230, 240. And we drive it that way for 3 or 4 hours at a time. And the oil pressure, when you start to slow down, oil pressure would be 10, 15 pounds, where normally it'd be 30 or 40. And as soon as it would cool down, oil pressure would literally come right back up. Like if we took a break, we'd eat, whatever. You fired up, the oil pressure came right back up. When we ran, I think we ran some Castrol 2050 a couple times. It did not do that at all. And it would come up some, like it would come up 5 or 10 from when it was really low, but it wouldn't come up all the way. So I don't know if you guys have never ran Schaefer stuff. I'm telling you, it's some really good. It's very, very good, especially for the shit we do.
I've
tried
tried
AMS oil usually, but
yeah, for sure. Great. Also great oil, of course.
I tried the Schaefer's. I hated it. No offense. Hated it. I couldn't keep it in a motor. That shit ran out of everywhere,
Okay. See how slick it is?
I tried it in my semis. As soon as I put it in, it spun a bearing. So I just decided not to use it anymore. Right. We went back to Rotella, and and Jody, he's got a Torco brand oil that's really well. We use a lot. But cool. Yeah, I myself, my own experience, I had terrible luck with it.
Yep.
So no more.
I had a question for you guys. Kind of going back a little bit, you're talking about doing long drives like Drag Week and stuff like that. Do you guys, when you're running full methanol, you don't have a full cooling system in there? Do you guys just run through the water through the heads only instead of running through the blocks? Usually solid them for a lot of people, Just out of curiosity, do you keep that?
When we did the Drag Week, Race Week stuff, we did put a radiator back in the car. It was a full cooling system deal at that point, and it takes all of it for those normally.
What about like for track? Do you guys you don't run radiators?
Not in Mountain Dew like I am in the truck actually, but in Mountain Dew we just ran water through the heads and they had basically a cooling tank or, we didn't put ice in it, but I guess you could have. It was just kind of a cooling tank that circulated it through.
Yes, I was wondering.
That VR1 oil that they're talking about, that's good stuff. We use the
100%.
green Brad Penn oil in everything, all the Nitro 70 stuff. We use Brad Penn. I've never, and like my Chevelle motor, it's wore out. You see it back there. I got years on that thing, and that's all I run is straight 40 Brad Penn in its whole life. And the bearings, we just, we're just freshening it now, and they look like it wasn't even wore out. I don't get it. So.
I don't know if we addressed John's question way back a while ago. Oh, he asked about what AN fittings and return and stuff like that. Down below, you guys saw that.
Well,
we're talking about going to
fine for 1,500 horse.
Yeah, it depends on the application. We ran like even on gas. I plumbed my whole car with dash 12, and our blower stuff's dash 16. But I don't think you need that. I don't think you need that like on an LS application. What are you running, Jasper?
We run 12, but we have 10 in some spots too. Like, I don't know. I honestly think you could run 8 for 1,500 horse if you wanted to.
I run 10 in mine.
EFI application, you can definitely do that. Carburetor's way different because you need all the volume and not the pressure. But with an EFI car, you can get. We run 10.
How's still going?
That's
the question.
Oh.
I screwed up and was laughing at a commercial on TV. My bad. I was wondering how that
carbureted guys have to run
from the Dr. Pepper commercials is still allowed to exist. My bad.
Oh boy. So what would you guys like to share with anybody who's trying to do this conversion and obviously doing what we do at the tracks and everything? Any suggestions at all for injector brands or anything? I know a lot of people use like atomizers, for example, because you have to use quite a large size injector.
We've used the atomizers and we haven't had any issues, but man, I swear everybody else hates them.
I love atomizers. Same as Adam said, everyone says they don't like them. On the
same for sale
ones,
a lot,
especially. They seem to idle way. It's way
100%.
Easier to get them to idle than like a set of Precisions or, like the Morans. I haven't tried the brand new Morans or whatever, but
they're supposed to be like an atomizer.
I have a friend that claims that they're a little rough. What was the other one we used? Oh, those like red ones that someone was making or whatever that pretty much I found out are a Precision, but the fuel techs I haven't got to try yet. We've got them for Everett's car, so I will have some feedback on them soon, but I've heard they're really good with idle too.
Jody, what did you guys used to run for injectors in those road course cars?
So the road course guys, they don't use any ethanol or methanol. They'll be strictly a gasoline deal.
Okay.
So those, so I haven't personally had a lot of experience with methanol and injector stuff. I've always been a carburetor guy on the methanol. But definitely the injection's a way to go on it just because of the control you have over it.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. I have metering blocks. If it's too rich at an idle, you just turn them in a little bit. You need a little more, you just turn them out.
Hard to do on the fly.
Yes, sir.
Dude, you carburetor guys definitely live a really tough life, man. I don't get you guys are insane, dude. That's too much work.
Nitrous cars in general. You got a lot going on all the time,
Yeah.
Mine seems kind of low maintenance for a nitrous car. You could ask Jasper. He's like, shouldn't you be changing plugs right now? I was like, nah, my shit's flying. Just leave it alone. But a lot of times they're a lot of work, man. Filling bottles, nonsense. Trying to keep a bottle warm in 40 degrees is a losing battle. You'll never win that battle. I don't care if you just took it out of the hot tank. It's over,
I guess I would say, John, from what we've seen, I mean, those numbers we ran low 20-degree timing on 30 pounds on E85, if it's in the right places without too much issue. And then
23 is probably max, I'd say, right?
yeah, for sure.
And I was pushing it.
Yeah, and it's all the weather. That is the one thing, like the limited amount of methanol tuning we've done, it does seem like it's very weather dependent. Like we had a hot air tune up that was flying, and as soon as we got in some cold air, it was tearing shit up real bad. And normally we wouldn't have seen that in our E85 tune-ups. So I don't know. That was just what I saw. I was surprised that, and maybe we were just, I guess, looking at, we were rather lean on the tune-up and maybe a little aggressive on timing, but for it to just run flawlessly in hot air, and then we got some really good air, and it just was tearing shit up.
I will say, back to the blower motors, every time you start that thing up, it is something different. It doesn't idle the same. It's rich. It's lean. It's always different. It's never the same.
Just floor it and go, huh?
Just depending on the weather, you know.
So that coldness effect that you had could be a density of the fuel as it gets that cold.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. It just, I mean, as soon as we got into cold air, man, it was, and it really wasn't even super cold, I guess, to be honest, but we were at 100 degrees and 95 to 100 degree days, and we were pretty mean with it. And as soon as we got into 80 degree days, it was just, we started pushing water, pushed the head gasket a couple times. So we really kind of changed our, and the plugs didn't look, looking at the plugs, we didn't even have a mark on the strap. They didn't really look extremely lean. Like if we would have looked at a normal E85 plug, it looked fine, but it definitely wasn't happy. And as soon as we fattened it up some and took some timing out of it, we never had any more issues, but it took a couple of getting smacked around before we figured it out.
What kind of timing, just we're talking about timing, like methanol versus ethanol. We talked about with the 85, what it can be. What kind of timing can you get to with methanol? Yeah, they're getting more than
intercooled
20
E85.
plus.
Yeah, we're at something similar to an intercooled
Depend on
E85.
combination a lot.
I agree. And maybe since Jasper, like, you've already said it, we do so much backtrack stuff. We don't really ever have them cranked to the max to the point where I don't know how much it can take because we never get it there.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Just in case some people are thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, timing in methanol again is pretty forgiving. So you can really mess around with it quite a bit just because it's just so damn forgiving.
Yep. Seems like, especially if you're extremely rich on the AFR.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to post these up. These are kind of some average. I know O2s are never always accurate, but these are some standard to kind of give you an idea a little bit. I was going to ask you guys, for methanol, we're using an O2 sensor. Do they read fully?
An NTK does. The Bosch ones don't.
I say Jasper's head down there.
Those numbers look like NA numbers.
Maybe you can share what we talked about the other day, Jasper, about O2s. We were talking about, about the differeces being off and the brands and all that.
Yeah, just read your plugs. Always read your plugs. Like, do not trust your sensor to be reading it correctly. Like, I think Mark made a comment earlier about being like 2 whole points off,
Especially
like
when you're going wild on the dyno.
Yeah, or when you're going wild on the dyno with a Mini Cooper or
100%.
something at Adam's shop. Like, don't trust the sensor 100%. Check the plug.
Did he get hurt after that?
And then like once you get to a point, like you can figure out what it, even if it is off, you can figure out what it is and then calculate that into your tunes or whatever. But at first, don't trust that thing with your life. Like, trust the plug.
Yeah, I was going to kind of throw that in there. If you're if the O2s are off a little bit and you're reading the plugs, and you can say, hey, look, the plugs look good at this, but it's saying I'm at X amount on the AFR reading, then you can use that as a baseline for future reference. But yeah, obviously when you first start doing it, definitely trust the spark plug.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate all your time and helping everybody else out. And I hope this information helps you guys if you guys are switching over to methanol.
Just a couple questions for everybody in the comments. Jody, if we're looking for fuel, gravity, weight, and stuff like that, where can we find that on the Torco fuel?
So all the stuff is at torco.com. We have all the specific gravities, the octane numbers. We have a full spec sheet on there. You can kind of look at every single fuel that we have on there. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. We have a contact on there. You can email us direct and we can answer your questions that way as well.
And you also make some type of octane booster for the more street guys, right?
We do. We have it's called our Torco accelerator. I hate to call it an octane boosters because octane boosters don't work. But basically what it is, it's a concentrated formula of our unleaded race fuel. And we're able to put that in a 32-ounce can for guys that are, on the street, that are on gas, that are boosted. Anything that requires premium gas, the accelerator will help because it'll increase the power, or it'll increase the octane. So like guys, you have 93 octane at the pump your way, we can make about 105 octane off the pump gas with the accelerator. So it works very, very well for guys that are turning up the boost, and it'll just protect the thing a little bit better. It's an insurance policy.
Awesome.
So yeah, we have everything on our website, torco.com. You can check us out. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions, and we'd be happy to help.
And if you need any fuel back east where we're at, look me up. I got you.
Mark will take care of that one.
And then real quickly on John Ryan's question, we had no difference in timing between C16 and E98. And I don't really think there is. I think why everyone likes to run E98 over C16 or whatever is price.
It's half the price.
Yeah, definitely the price.
And with that increase going on. Oof.
And then I also want to say that everybody needs to go get on Mac's YouTube channel after this and throw a fit about any crybaby that is complaining about stock firewalls or floors, or if I want to put a flux capacitor in my back seat, that's my business.
I thought you only got mad about the floors.
What?
I thought you were only upset about the floors.
I am. I'll show you real quick. I think mine qualifies. How do I switch the camera? There we
Be a
go.
little flip button on there.
Now, is this the Lexan floors we're going to see?
Yeah, no shit.
I'll wait to see what's next.
This is
I thought I picked it back.
this is the double frame rail floor you're trying to see.
Yeah, no kid. Look at this.
So that's a stock firewall, right?
Yep.
What's left of it?
Yeah, there you go.
But like, my motor isn't placed back, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. 100% good.
So like, am I cool in a stock firewall class, or am I?
I would
not
say
cool?
you are. I say you are, because it seems to be it's all about the placement of the motor. I think you're good to go, buddy.
And then
I
like
think-
that's all like stock frame rail right there.
Man, I think if you're on a
And then
28,
if you
bring
come
it
to
on.
the back, like I still have stock frame rail all the way from here all the way on that back half. So like I feel like the only thing I did is increase my safety a heck ton in here.
Yeah.
And didn't get
That's
any
important.
really, I mean, don't get me wrong, my motor's up a little bit. Like my crank or camshaft center line or crank center line or whatever's up.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know if that makes that huge a difference when you have 16 inches of travel up front.
I seen
It's a
him go through
never-ending
the
crank center height.
I seen him go through the bushes one time at like 140. I think safety is everything.
Yeah, no
I agree
shit.
with that.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
So Adam says it's good.
I have. Speaking of that,
So for the record, Adam is now said I'm legal for everything. Dig or die, don't matter. I'm just showing up and being like, Adam said we good.
Yeah, apparently, just like Nick,
There we
I think
go.
I make the rules for every race we attend. But for the banger, we don't have any rules, so you're all legal there.
I saw that and I loved it.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna need some.
I think I might have even said I care instead. It was that important to me.
I'm gonna need some tips on TikTok videos, Adam, because your TikTok videos are fire, dude.
Thanks, dude. I'm a rookie myself. Nick shows me how to do it. Yeah.
Well, guys, we have our event coming up, Double Chaos, and you guys are looking for a sketchy track and real simple rules. You don't have to worry about any of that crazy stuff. You can have your electronics and all your other stuff. Limpy's going to be on the light. You definitely going to want to be there Friday night. I can't say nothing more than that. And lots going on, but that's going to be a good time. And some of you may have got some invitations out there coming. But definitely be the place to be. It's going to be a good time, guys. Guys are telling me they're going faster there than they are to dig or die on that track. So it's definitely going to be a good time. It's something that's on the bucket list to do, you know. So you guys, hope you guys can all make that out. And anything else you guys want to add? You got anything going on, Adam, at all? You want to?
Man, we just thrashed around here trying to get ready for sick week. We're taking Nick's new car, Uncle Sam, on sick week, which is basically like drag week in Florida. And we're 15 days away, and it doesn't have an engine, and it's like 30% wired. And so, yeah, we're about ready to go.
You're having fun.
Yeah. 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 We're slammed in the shop. So it's all good stuff. Just another day in the shit rodeo life we live. We love it.
There you go. So what do you guys do? I know you guys have a shop as well, in case people who don't know about you guys.
Yeah, so we build street race cars, street car stuff. Like we're like that mix. So we do a lot of turbo stuff, a lot of EFI installs. We recently, with the backtrack stuff getting so popular, we've done some chassis stuff there. We've helped guys set up some chassis stuff for backtrack. As Jasper kind of mentioned, we got a hub dyno, so we do plenty of dyno tuning on it and just getting our own stuff ready. This time of year, that's like the best tool in the world to have, especially we got a car that's going to get finished, and we got 1 day to get it ready to go, and then drive it 1,200 miles and try to go sixes. So we'd be able to throw it on the dyno and get it all dialed in before we leave. But yeah, so we just that's just kind of we live a race car life where it's all we do every day, all day, and we just like to have fun with it.
Nice.
So they will build you a whole entire S10 in a week.
Mid-American Customs, okay?
Heard it here first, right?
It just costs $70,000, but we can do it. For sure.
Well, I was going to say, Jasper, now, speaking of that, I mean, I haven't seen anybody put a car together in 72 hours before. So whatever you got going on in that garage right there,
yeah,
you got quite
those
a team.
guys did it. Like, those were our spirit animals, was their crew. They're the closest thing to us. They're just a little more polished than we are.
Yeah, maybe
Like,
just a hair.
We're a little bit more sketchy. But we love those guys. We've known Adam for a long time now, probably, I don't know, a year and a half or something. And ever since we've got with the man, they're everything right with racing. So
yeah,
that's why everyone gravitates
so well. Yeah, I think we get along so well. I mean, because we are very much same. We just love doing this stuff, and there's no quit in any of us, and whatever it takes to get it done, we just do. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate you guys, and thanks Jody for coming on and with Torco Fuels and sharing with us all your knowledge and everybody else. And thanks Mid America and MacTV for you guys for coming on. Appreciate you, Adam and
Thanks,
Jasper and Mark. We appreciate you guys, and we'll be back next week for suspension. Am I right, Jasper?
Yep. We're going to make Jeff Thomas come on.
So Jeff Thomas will be on the show next week, and we'll be talking long travel, 16 inches of travel.
You should have named
Wrap your head around that, everybody. That's all I got to say.
Should have named her John Holmes, buddy.
Yeah. There you go. So tune in for us next week. You guys will love it. We'll talk about chassis and suspension, and you guys don't want to miss that. Definitely be good. Our regular show on Thursdays will be back, and we'll see you guys next Thursday. It'll be the next show at 7 p.m. You guys can see us on our RPN networks on Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, all the TV places everywhere, all the apps on your smart TVs. More on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on Amazon. So you're going to hear us everywhere, see us. If you guys miss this podcast, you can listen in your car or on your phone. So you guys can see us everywhere. We're just trying to keep this sport alive. We can only do it with the support of all these great people that are here with us right now, like Adam and Jasper and Jody and Mark, so we appreciate everything, and let's keep this going, and let's help the next generation coming up too at the same time,
Amen. So
lots of love for everybody. Thank you guys for watching and participating. And one more remark. So you guys take care. Have a good night. See you all later.
All right.
Take care.
See you guys.
Bye.